you are in your faith, but I want to pray for you. I want to pray that God will bless your life, that you will embrace those things that you received here today and the days of God, as well as the days that are ahead of you. I want to pray that you reject passivity, that you accept responsibility, and that you will ultimately leave a legacy. All right? So let's pray. You can stand and gather in circles. That's all right? Those of you, I wasn't a follower per se of him from a musical perspective. I heard about him, turned on to him about a year ago. My kids were amazed. My son particularly, who was 19, was amazed that I knew so much about him. But what interested me was not necessarily his music. I wasn't necessarily listening or following his music. But what I was following was the fact that he was an entrepreneur. What I was following the fact that he was taking his community, a place that he grew up and perhaps was not the most favorable of conditions, but he took control and power of that and began to transform it and change it. And those kinds of things impressed me, owning his own product and merchandise, and how he took the record industry and kind of turned them upside down by being an independent artist and doing what was necessary to do, even to the extent that it takes $400. I mean, and now when we look at the fact that he is gone, because life really is fleeting, life really is short, but the fact of all that he's leaving behind. There's an article that was produced yesterday that talked about how many jobs he has and subsequently will produce in that community. But not just that community in terms of job, economic power, but also impact in terms of his music, in terms of the powerful witness. You know, there's a truce now between the Crips and Bloods in LA. We understand that some other art things are going to happen. The marathon continues, all of these things. And they start measuring what he leaves behind in terms of the lives he touched, economic impact that he makes, what he's doing with music. And I started thinking about that because you and I really we don't have much say in that. We do all we can to be healthy. We do all we can to keep ourselves out of dangerous situations. But when it's all said and done, we really don't have any control over when we leave this earth. But the reality is we do have a sense of control of the legacy that we leave. And so what I want to encourage you to do is to live your life in such a way as a king that you will leave behind a legacy. And that's whether long, that's whether short, but the reality is you can make an impact in the world while you're here. So I want to thank you as a team. I want to thank you for inviting your staff. Of course, Minister LeVar, I appreciate him so very much and what he's doing. The guys who shared with us in various contexts, whether it's worship, the support, the partnership that we have with you guys here. And for those of you who want to join me, again, not trying to offend, reject passivity. Can you say that? Reject. I can't hear y'all. Reject passivity. Okay, so when I say reject passivity, I mean you have to, with intentionality, you've got to, with intent, apply these principles. You can't just kind of lay back, chill out, and let life just pass you by. You've got to engage life. The last two speakers in a very powerful way, two young brothers that says, listen, I'm not going to wait. I'm not going to wait till my turn. I'm not going to wait till people say it's all right. They're already going after the things to make their lives better, their families, their community. All right? And so you can't just take this information and kind of just sit on it. Reject passivity says, I'm going to be engaged in it. I'm going to apply it. I'm going to take control of my destiny now. And that's something that has to happen in the city of your soul. You got to accept responsibility. You can't put it on anybody else. You can't put it on your folks, whether they're or not there, family members, whether they are not there, team here, principals, teachers. You have to accept responsibility for your own destiny. Right? Reject passivity, accept responsibility. Can you say that? Accept responsibility. And the last one that I want to kind of share with you, because I really think that it is probably the anchor to the this whole concept of moving toward becoming king, is understand that you got to leave a legacy. Say that, leave a legacy. So in rejecting, not just idle, not just chilling out, not just letting life pass you by, in accepting responsibility, you live your life in such a way that you leave a legacy. You can't just exist to be existed. You've got to know that even after you leave this world, that what you leave behind is going to impact someone else. And you can leave behind that which is good, that which is productive, that which is life-giving, life-sustaining, or you can leave behind hurt, pain, destruction in terms of your past. I believe that we ought to live our lives so, one, we can live again, but secondly, so that we can leave a legacy. Someone talked about myth a few minutes ago, and I think it's important that we consider. And I guess the final component I'll deal with, even in this brief, like 30 minutes that I've been here, I've seen you deal with body, I've seen you deal with issues of the mind, as the last two speakers have shared with you during your yoga session. I want to deal with issues of the soul. I want to deal with that level that, in my opinion, and from my faith tradition, it drives all the rest. And so as you embrace this concept of mind over matter, as you are in the process of becoming kings, I want to remind you that manhood really is in crisis in our culture. There's a crisis of manhood in our culture. And I believe that there are three things that each of you can do with the information that you've learned today to cultivate and nurture your soul. First of all, I want you to understand that you got to reject